Okay. Traumatic brain injuries. The most common, of course, is just blunt force. Get concussions, contusions, penetrating injuries, and anoxic brain injuries. Shaking impact to the head. I mean, I broke out a windshield with my face when I was in high school. I remember also once I got knocked out. I was a football player, and I got knocked out, and it was like took me a week to recover. So I've had my brain injuries as well. So there's full level of them. There's the number one thing I would say is if someone's had an injury that's really serious, I would wait a month before doing any serious sound. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's two levels of sound. You could just do sound in the room versus binaural beats. Right? Number one thing with brain injuries is to get the brain back to a coherent state. And what we do, what I went through earlier with finding their rhythm of their brain by playing each of the 12 rhythms or notes, and then giving them binaural beats in delta for sleep, theta for creativity, alpha for learning and presence, beta for overcoming ADD, and gamma as well, and tuning it to them is incredibly effective. I had a guy that got beat up and was in a bar and was in a hospital for like a month, and he was on Adderall for 10 years, and we found his note, his rhythm, and gave him the binaural beats, and within a week he was off the Adderall and his energy changed dramatically. I had a guy, good friend, who was in a motorcycle accident about 3 months ago. He went flying across the road and had serious brain injury and dramatically helped his brain. This is huge, and the potential with serious research to even make this more effective is just off the charts. There's nothing better than that. Whenever I think of the brain, I always think of rhythms, especially when there's chaotic vibration, because there's nothing more. I mean, this is exactly, the brain just kind of goes into fibrillation, right? It's chaos. And to get it back to a stable, consistent rhythm is really important. Best tuned to that person. But even crystal bowls could be good as long as they're not too sensitive and it doesn't bother them. It's the main thing. So brainwave entrainment tuned to them. Peace is always, again, peace, and that includes playing consistent sounds, having them play sounds. Oh, this is really important. Having them play sounds. It's well known that playing an instrument synchronizes the left and right brain. That's one of the best things you could do, is get them to actually play, right? And then it can become an emotional thing, so have them express the emotions, right? Play and what music that works, but music tuned to them is the best. Getting in there in the body, it's not such a big deal. Maybe connection to spirit. Those are the main ones, right there. Brainwave entrainment and tune to them. So if you're doing just live sound, again, watch for their tempo. Watch for their rhythm. We even do this with babies. We'll actually see the baby rocking back and forth, and we'll just start playing a rhythm to that baby, right? It's very cool. Tuning it to them is a big deal. What you could do is also I just thought of this from what somebody said earlier. Is get them to play the drum and record it on their phone. And just have them, even if they don't have drum, have them listen to their own drumming at the rhythm that feels good to them. That's really cool. I'd never thought of that before till now. Right? Just use their own rhythm where they're at peace and have them listen to themselves. It's very cool. Right? I assume toning and chant and mantra could be really good because you're totally entraining people. But find the rhythm, that works the best for them. It's like maybe it's instead of Om Mani Padma Hum, it's Om Mani Padma Hum, Om Mani Padma Hum, right? Whatever rhythm works for them to get their brain. But them doing a rhythm with their voice. Here's another thing. Let's see, put this in. Chant and mantra. Just have them do like ba vowels. We do this with the babies. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Ga, 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 ga. Da, 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 da. Ba, ga, ta, ba, ga, da. Just do 4. Pa, da, ga, ba. Pa, da, ga, ba. Ta, da, ta, la. Ta, da, ta, la. Ta, da, la, ta. Right? That can be really good. Now, so you're entraining them with consonants into their own natural rhythm. Any thoughts about this?
I know in the patients I work with, they can't make sound. They have trachs. They can't play instruments because they're contracted and their brains don't work, and they're
yeah, then this is the deal. Brainwave entrainment tuned to them.
But how do we know? I mean, I think it's important, at least I know, like I have to talk to the families, I have to talk to the parents and find out what kind of music is this person. I mean, because they're a shell of what they used to be. You know what I mean? I don't even know what their baseline is until we discover who they were before we can even address that.
Address what? Say that again.
I mean, I think.
What is it you're talking about?
To understand what their frequency is, I need to know what they were.
No, it has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with that. At least what I'm talking about.
So we're in training to what they are now, because like I've got some that are
No. See, what they are now is still, they haven't really gone off of their rhythm. They've gone into chaos. Their system still knows how to, unless they're in complete freak out anxiety all the time. But even then, the body knows when you play a rhythm that is back to its normal homeostasis, right? Because we're not talking about, it's not like they've gone to a really fast rhythm off of theirs. Their metabolism is still the same. It's just chaotic, right? So it's really easy. I mean, every time I've been doing this for 10 years, every time I play it, it's, in fact, if they're fragile, it's much easier because we can see when they actually entrain to their natural rhythm very quickly because they're so sensitive. Yeah, no, it's you don't have to know anything about them. We're just playing things and looking at when they, if someone goes into a place of peace when you play a rhythm, that's the deal. Okay. And just again to know that the wrong rhythm can actually be detrimental, especially over time. Although there's always a component of stable, consistent vibrations, which is good, but only when people are really sensitive can a different rhythm be a problem. Because the stable, consistent rhythm has that component of peace, but it's better when it's tuned to them, to their tempo. I mean, otherwise, getting anybody relaxed into a state of peace, of just playing crystal bowls or Tibetan bowls or, doing anything like that, it's always good. That's always good. But that's not going to change the brain drastically like brainwave entrainment can. I mean, flashing lights. You can even get flashing lights tuned to the person. That's like even more effective than sound. This is really the main deal, and we're looking at some serious research with a few hundred people with brain injuries to show how effective it is, right? Because anecdotally, we've seen so many great transformations. I think this should be used in hospitals. This is something we could get into hospitals right away, right? Get FDA approval and immediately start using this. I mean, with a little bit of research, not even a lot of research, we could totally change the way people are working with this. We're now building a device where you can hook up EEG and EKG and will automatically create music tuned to that person automatically just from your phone, from a little EKG unit. Any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'll chime in on something. I think with TBI, there's a lot of components to that. It's very complicated. It's chaos in its own, but and that's what affects the nervous system. And I think you nailed it with the rhythm, because that is the core of the Kundalini, of just getting that rhythm kind of going and that the whole flow going. But one thing that is it's talked about more and more, but that's the idea of trauma. Trauma. Basically, that's what happens because it's a trauma experience. Now you have the nervous system that's been infected by the trauma, and you have the brain that's been infected by the injury. So you actually have a double whammy of issues. So when you try to deal with that, it's virtually impossible. And and I really resonated with the idea of what was the person like before and what was like afterwards, and that was the most damaging kind of a thing to go through, because how was it like before and how is it after? Like that was such a struggle. But until I cleared that energy, that's when the healing started beginning, that there was no before and after, and that the trauma was just the interception. And right now with the current events, the war and stuff, there's trauma is like, that's where the healing needs to start, because we're like faced with it. And the sound stuff is what I'm kind of promoting on that end as well. So while the TBI is, I understand that as well, but it's also it's a huge trauma experience. That is part of what the sound helps as well. So
thank you. That's so important. I left it out completely. Let's look at here. So we've had a whole meeting on trauma and PTSD. So one of the big things is the Sound Lounge is so effective because we have people working with serious trauma. I mean, there's Ed Rupert that's responsible for 4,000 first responders, and he uses it to get it physically out of the body. There's also, of course, things like EMDR and hypnotherapy, where you can, visualize what it would be like without the trauma, and to get back to that stable, consistent state. So there's a lot of information here on the site on different ideas for trauma that you might check out, getting them to a state of peace so that becomes the norm, right? And then you can also do the whole transformational aspect, where you actually talk about the trauma, make the sound of it, express it, and then transform it, right? So you take that energy of the trauma and change it slowly, or do a ceremony to change it back to light and to you, right? So there's a lot of, there's desensitizing, because with trauma, you can get really sensitized to anything, that could re-trigger it. So there's a lot of different aspects that you can take a look at here. I'm so glad you mentioned this, because it's huge. It's really huge. Because all that mental anguish is going to affect the brain as well, physically as well. Oh, excellent. Any other thoughts on brain injuries?
I guess just to go along with that, something I've been doing because I have such a good-sized group of young people. I've been playing I have an Moldavite infused crystal bowl, and I've been playing that with songs that kind of go with it. Like I played Black from Pearl Jam with my bowl, and it was almost like what you were saying, like just sitting with the feeling of, because that song is just, when I'm in the mood, that's where I want to go. I want that resonance. And it was interesting because they just kind of, I could see the peace and just the, oh yeah. It was, I don't know, I can't even explain, I can't articulate.
Yeah, I know. It's the basis. It's funny because in these meetings, often we don't get into the whole realm of everything you can do, which is, playing bowls, consistent tones, creating peace, having them make sounds. All the different things. There's so many different possibilities that are just huge, not to mention the energy you run when you're actually doing the sound healing session. The truth is, with any of these, if you just simply access source while playing a bowl, that could be the best thing of all, right? It could be a miracle right there, right? And it's just so simple, right? So there's a whole realm we don't even get into, because it's kind of just, I assume people know we're not teaching sound, the basis of sound healing in these meetings. Excellent. Okay, so born with a brain injury. I didn't even ever thought about that. You mean like during the birth process? Oh, so yeah, I had a kid that was like 3 years old with cerebral palsy, and he didn't really speak. And his parents brought him in, and we sat him on the sound table with his mom, and I played each of the 12 notes, and when I got to his note, he was rocking back and forth. He stopped, and he looks me in the eye, perfectly still. And I go, that's it. His mom bought a dolphin and emailed me the next day, and she said he's never slept on his own by himself before. This is dramatic. Right?